Good evening. Welcome to Mom News. I'm IP Knightley. I should share my screen and be ready to have done that, but I've already flipped that up. Let's take it from the top, boys. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. This is live, and you would think after 2 years of being locked down, I'd figure this shit out. But alas, here we are. My name is Sam, and this is going to be the countdown to Burns Night tasting with some of our friends from around the whiskey world. Some tasty drams, so stick with us. And if you have any questions, comment, ask them through the various formats you may be watching us in, and we'll speak to you as we go. Teenager has taken on whiskey giants by selling his own version of Scotland's national drink via TikTok. Dermot McCann is only 19 years old, and he likes social media. He came up with the idea to have his own Scotch whiskey during lockdown to target people aged 18 to 25 and to move away from the image of the drink as an older person's tipple. In a bold, original move, he made the whiskey available for £30 online via his TikTok. Good idea. Blaze will be available. Blaze. I apologize. Blaze will be available wherever you talk your ticks. Blair Bowman, a leading whiskey expert, is still living in lockdown because he fears losing his senses. Seems like he may have already lost some, and his livelihood to COVID. At least one person is relying on that nose of his. Got to keep it safe. To quote Blair, I am very fortunate to do a job that I love, which is nosing and tasting whiskeys and talking about it with clients and consulting in projects around the world. Though I haven't done that much, and I just won Communicator of the Year. Thank you, Blair. In India, there are, oh God, I'm touching the wrong thing. In India, not the first time I've been told that. In India, there are talks to get the UK exporting more smoothly to those shores. Right now, when whiskey lands at port, the imports into India hit 30 different markets across all the different states, requiring different labeling with different duty and retail rules. And some states have government monopolies related to alcohol, so it's quite a tricky thing. And there's a 150% tariff on Scotch whiskey in India. The UK is trying to tackle that. Go SWA. Scroll. Next story. Click here and scroll, Sam. Oh, the train. A train. The Spa Valley Railway in Tunbridge Wells is launching what organizers believe is the Southeast's first whiskey and steam train, in conjunction with the Copper River Distillery and Harvey's Brewery. Passengers will be able to spend an afternoon sipping 3 different whiskeys from local distilleries while taking a journey which departs for a return trip from Eridge to Tunbridge Wells at 2:45 on Saturday, February 19th, May 21st, July 16th. And it's £40 per adult. If you can swallow all 3 whiskeys, you win a prize. And of course, speaking of swallowing whiskey, Crown Royal, our friend Davin de Kergamo has awarded Crown Royal Winter Wheat the Canadian Whiskey of the Year. It's a low bar, but it's a bar that matters. And that is the news. And I will try to start. This is a different tool than I'm used to, guys. I'm very sorry. Can you see me? Am I close enough? Can you see my nose hair? And if you're still listening, I'm going to bring in some guests, and we are going to taste some whiskeys together. Again, I'm Sam, and we have whiskeys from the Character Vila Whiskey Company and from our friends Barry Brothers and Rudd, with Johnny McMillan and Cam Johnson, who I will bring in now. Hey, Johnny.
Thank you for that news update. My icy cynicism has melted away in a kind of flowing river of joy. That was just beautiful, Sam. Thank you.
Good. I'm trying to break the ice to make you feel comfortable. I know these things aren't your bag, are they?
Who told you that? No, I'll be very uncynical, and I'll be it'll be wonderful, the whole thing. I'll be a brand ambassador for the evening.
Okay, well, dour is a 4-letter word. I will bring in I'll bring in our other guest, Cam Johnson, also from north of Hadrian's Wall. Hey, Cam.
How we doing? Sam, you crack me up. Your news piece, you're like an institution.
Good. If I'd rehearsed it, I'm sure it would have been better. But anyway, the idea was there, and we got it executed. And I hope Blair doesn't send me hate mail or withdraw my nomination for Communicator of the Year 2022. This is exciting. We know that next week is my anniversary. I got married on Burns Night. For those who don't know, January 25th is an anniversary celebrated, I guess, a commemoration of the life and works of Robbie Burns, Scots national poet. And do you guys have much of a Burns affinity?
I'm generally more numbers, but I do appreciate Old Lang Syne and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can more or less do it. Don't ask me to do it now, for God's sake. But I can more or less do Address to Haggis by heart. So yeah, I used to have a family Burns every year when I was little with the mum's side of the family. So yeah, I quite like a bit of Burns actually. Yeah, To a Mouse, etc.
Well, as a foreigner, I absolutely love it. I love any Scottish party really, because there's whiskey, good beer, and of course a ceilidh, so you can dance with the prettiest woman in the room without having to ask her. Which is a tradition I love. And then you get sweaty together on the first night, which is also exciting.
Yeah, it's a very unique kind of bruising you get kind of inside the elbow. There's very few other sports other than ceilidh dancing where you kind of bruise in that section of your body.
Yeah, I think in most countries of the world that would be a call to social services when those bruises are seen. But otherwise it's accepted. And so that's my wife and I met in Scotland and we were married on Burns night. That's how much we love the evening and the traditions of it. So that's next week. Master Malt and others will be having festivities. I'm sure this is just a teaser a week earlier to suggest a few whiskeys to enjoy on the night and just to hang out with some friends and go through them. So I thought maybe first we'd start with Barry Brothers and you maybe, Johnny, maybe give us a bit of your background.
Yeah, so I'm Johnny McMillan, as you know, Sam, and Cam, as you know from 5 minutes ago. I do a few different things in Barry Brothers. I guess my kind of main job really is assisting the legendary Doug McIver in sort of cask buying, cask selection, but that kind of extends to a bit of what you sort of call market support or advocacy is the word now. Although I kind of feel any kind of public speaking I do does nothing but kind of like detract from sales of bottles. And then I also do a little bit on the kind of Daft Mill side as well. So kind of very loosely sort of de facto brand manager for Daft Mill. But that's Jameson, wrong brand, Sam. Definitely not Jameson. Very different.
But it was the last bit of news I missed. Can you guess what the news story was?
Is Jameson Orange a new thing?
Well, I mean, It depends how you look at it. If I was taking a boat over to America in the 1800s and I couldn't squeeze limes, I would definitely take Jameson Orange and get my vitamin C and prevent scurvy.
It feels like another desperate attempt to recruit people to the whiskey category. I mean, people drink whiskey, that's absolutely fine. Let's not try to recruit them into the category. I'm happy with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. But that looks like what this is a kind of attempt to make people drink whiskey who don't really want to drink whiskey. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Sam, is that bottled as an Irish whiskey?
I would need to check that, but probably not. That's a good point. Well, anyway,
I would guess spirit drink.
Yeah.
But Barry Brothers and Rudd, more to the point, we're selling Jameson actually in 1823 from an old price list I have. So Barry Brothers and Rudd, for those people who don't know, are probably the world's oldest wine and spirit merchant. So we were founded in 1698. And I think we're probably the oldest independent bottler as well. So we've been bottling whiskey in our own label since the late 1800s, and certainly single malt. So if you're talking about like independent bottlings being non-proprietary bottling of single malt, you've got Cadenhead starting that from 1950 or so, Master Malt from 1990 or so, Gordon MacPhail 1920 or so, Barry Brothers, we've been bottling stuff like 1888 Talisker, going back to sort of 1907. So I think we're probably the oldest independent bottler as well.
So Johnny, just for some viewers who maybe don't fully understand what that means, because obviously you see Glenfiddich and Balvenie, you see whiskeys out there, proprietary bottlings. An independent bottler is
an independent bottler is someone that kind of buys casks from distilleries they don't own and bottle them in their own label. And that is the succinct description. I mean, you could kind of argue that like Johnny Walker and things are independent bottler because originally they were buying distilleries, didn't own and blending them. But yes, sort of single malt bottlings, and now an independent bottler really means, to me anyway, means sort of single cask bottlings or blended malts. Right. How was that? Would you like more? I could go into my childhood if you like.
Well, I think we've already spoken about that with you sat in a very different position. I don't think we need to go there. Now, Cam, how about you introduce yourself? Where are you? What's your whiskey background, and what are you doing here tonight?
Well, I'll start with my childhood. No, I'm joking.
It was a stormy night in Tibet.
That's right. Yeah, stormy night in Tibet. No, I started my journey off in whiskey age 18, like most people do. Kind of fell in love with it. Studied economics, and then chose not to go and work in banking or finance, and worked in whiskey. And here I am. I've been for 7 years at this point. I look after the whiskey portfolio for Atom Brands, which is part of Master of Malt. And tonight we're going to be tasting the Aerolite Lindsay by the Character Valley Whiskey Company.
It's not the first independent bottle you've worked for, is it?
It's not. No, I worked in the US for a company called Alexander Murray and Company, which is the largest independent bottler in the US by volume. So doing the rounds, getting there.
Must be very cheap then.
No comment.
That was a much better introduction. That was so much more on brand. Can I redo mine?
Yeah, we'll take it from the top, Johnny. Hi, Johnny. Yeah. Hi. What brings you here, Barry brother?
We're going to be tasting a couple of delicious whiskies from Barry Brothers and Rudd. Trying the Sherry Cask Classic and my personal favourite, the blended Isla Malt. Is that better?
You've absolutely nailed it. Well, let's get tucked in. Show us the Barry Classic. I love the packages. I've got the Isla here, but if you've got one to show, I don't know. But it's a beautiful, simple, classic label. And I think that you call the whole range classic.
Yeah, Cam's got the new packaging, Sam. So if you can hide yours, that'd be really, really good. So Sam, you've got the packaging. Yeah, that's the old packaging. So get rid of that.
See how quickly I've gone through it? It must be delicious.
Yeah. So I mean, the classic range are a range of atted malts that are kind of like put together to kind of showcase different styles of whiskey, really. So there's one Speyside, there's one Isla, which are obviously regions, but then it's also quite stereotypical as style as well. There's also the Sherry Cask Classic. There's a peated Highland, which is Highland whiskey finished in ex-Isla casks. There's an Irish, and it's kind of a range we kind of play with. So there might be other things popping up over the years, but it's kind of sort of entry level Barry Brothers, and something we've been doing vatted malts for 120 years or so, give or take. The Sherry Cask first is by far our biggest selling bottling, just because it kind of does what it says in the tin. There's really very little you can say about it other than the name, which is it's classic Sherry Cask. So this batch particularly is all Speyside. They won't all be all Speyside, but this one is. It's full maturation in sherry Oloroso Sherry casks. And it's just it's kind of, I mean, I really hate to say Sherry cask tastes like Christmas cake, but on the nose, it's all the kind of flavors you expect from Sherry cask whiskey. So there's lots of kind of dried fruit. It's a kind of slight sulfury thing that kind of struck matches, which personally I quite like. And then, do you know what Dundee cake is, Sam? I mean, have you passed your Scottish citizenship test yet?
I don't think I have. Tell us all about it. You
haven't had Dundee cake? Really? So Dundee cake is it's like a very hard fruit cake that's quite spicy, and it's got a kind of layer of kind of intense like biscuit on the top and bottom. It's very, very good. And if you want to taste cherry whiskies, you need that as a frame of reference.
Okay, so noted.
Yes, it's very good whiskey. I think it's just your kind of everyday sort of drinking sherried whiskey.
Yeah, that's what Barry's, like you said, Barry's have been doing this type of thing for a long time. You use the phrase vatted malt, but that's a blended malt. Can you just explain for viewers what that is?
Yeah, so I guess vatted malt's a fairly archaic way of saying it, but I think it's a bit more clear. I think, so blended malt, so single malt is malt whiskey from one single distillery, single malt. Blended malt is single malts from different distilleries blended together. So it is all malt whiskey. It's still that same inherent level of quality, i.e. it is only malted barley, it is only pot still, but it is blended together. I guess I prefer the term vatted malt because I think adding blend to the category name just adds a kind of wee layer of confusion, like blended malt. Is that the same thing? Where vatted malt to me just kind of feels like the right way of saying it, but I think that was outlawed by SWA 10 years ago or something like that. But yeah, we've been bottling whiskey for a wee while. I happen, this will come as a surprise to you, Sam and Cam, but I have some old Berry Brothers price lists here. Would you like to see them?
Absolutely.
Good. Thank God we practiced sharing screens earlier.
This is the part where the old people play with technology. That's not a
right. Does this? I'm still relatively youthful, Sam. Relatively.
If you can present, I can tell by your open chest.
Does this work?
That's working. It looks great. Viewers at home, if you can read that, give us a thumbs up. Actually, I can't see their chat. I thought usually it comes into this feed.
It's because no one's watching, Sam. So yeah, this is a price list from 1909. You can see in the top corner, Berry Brothers and Co. And these were tiny. They were called vest pocket price lists. So the actual thing is only like 3 inches long. It's tiny little price list. And if you came into 1909, you could buy 1897 Macallan by the gallon for 20 eggs, or you could buy Talisker by the dozen for 127 shillings. This is a 1907 price list, quite similar. Some of the later price lists are interesting. This one's 1932. Okay, so bear in mind that Gordon MacPhail, quite right, are making a huge deal of being able to bottle 70, 80-year-old whiskies now. And huge credit to them. I mean, that is foresight. They're an amazing bottler. Nothing but respect for Gordon MacPhail. But to put it in context, in 1932, Berry Brothers and Rudd were selling 1866 Dalmore. That's 56-year-old single malt Dalmore in 1932, which is pretty incredible. And also, I think just from a kind of like historical perspective, it's quite interesting to see the blend, finest liqueur of Great Ayr proof. So a non-age statement blend was the same price, 277 shillings, as a 56-year-old single malt.
Yeah, wow.
Dalmore. You know, pretty amazing.
So on the next page, does it say anything about whiskey investment then?
Yeah, we sold those 96s to Whiskey for Gold Cash or whatever it is. They're, these are the prices. There's tons of them, and I've spent a lot of time looking through them, and I still kind of find cool old things. This is one that Rob Whitehead pointed out to me quite recently, 1916, and it's wonderful. Talisker, 1899. You know, like 1800s whiskey is just so. I love old bottles, and I can count on the number, count on fingers of 2 hands how many vintage 1800s whiskies I've seen. So you know, Talisker, 1899, characteristic flavour, a splendid specimen. And this description of, I don't think Justin's orange is actually on here, but Justin's on superlatively fine perfection of old Irish whiskey, light and delicate. Beautiful, beautiful language. So yeah, so we kind of dip into Berry Brothers. I think I've stopped sharing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can just take you in and out. You have stopped though, yes. If you want to share again, do it, and I can bring you in and out with a little toggle.
Okay, good stuff. How long I meant to talk for, so I'll be quiet.
No. We're here together for as long as you like. I need to go pick up my daughter at whatever I said I need to do in a bit, but we've got plenty of time, mate. That is interesting. You also gave a few hints there that you are a bit of a whiskey nerd. You're not just someone who works in this industry. I don't think any of us are. Just employees of whiskey companies. We are whiskey lovers. So what is it about whiskey that really lights your fire, Johnny?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of borderline autistic when it comes to whiskey. I mean, I guess yourself, Sam, because I remember when you were like a blogger before. You were like Dr. Whiskey, and that was the time when people liked bloggers as well. What was that?
I'm just trying to explain to viewers what that was back in the day, but it's not that long ago, so I hope they fucking remember.
I don't know. I can't remember when people liked bloggers. Like, do you remember like people used to talk about Edinburgh Whiskey Blog?
Yeah.
And just like, hey, they're nice guys, and Dr. Whiskey, they're nice guys. There were some people who blogged about whiskey because they liked whiskey, not because they wanted free samples. God, Berry Brothers are going to get really flamed on blogs. I should really not talk at all in public. Why do I like whiskey was your question, not why do I not like bloggers. I don't know. I mean, I guess my love of whiskey has just kind of changed massively over the years, but I guess kind of getting into it was a lot about the kind of feeling of like event and occasion when you with really good friends and you hunt down a good bottle. And when I started drinking whiskey, an amazing bottle to me was like Talisker 18 or Highland Park 18, and still those are great whiskies. Those are great whiskies. But you used to open them. It's just that kind of feeling of kind of camaraderie and just, I don't know, it is a kind of social lubricant. And yeah, today, my joy comes from similar things, but unfortunately, special bottles have changed somewhat. So I do, as you know, Old and Rare, the Old and Rare Festival in my spare time. I used to do Drambuie, may do again.
Oh, hint, you heard it here first. All right.
Yeah. One day when there's no pandemic. So yeah, I'm very much a kind of card carrying, anorak wearing. I think the term is final stage whiskey nerd.
It's terminal.
Yes, definitely. Diagnosed. Not unlike yourself, Sam, to be fair.
Well, but still finding joy in the everyday of it is part of the thing too, and not being cynical. You did mention bloggers, and I respect to people who are creating content online in whiskey, and often probably consciously trying to get into doing it professionally. I can warn you, if you are someone who does that, the more negativity you treat the category with, the less likely people are going to want to work with you. So be cool. The spirit is older than you. It will be here long after you're gone, and have some humility around it. That's what I love about whiskey. It demands humility. It demands that when you consider it, you have an open mind. And if you don't, you suffer for it, I think, with whiskey enjoyment. So that's why
I totally agree. I mean, and there are a lot of bloggers out there. I guess so. We've been working. I think you saw the Nordic series we did recently. Worked with a blogger on that, a guy called Thomas Obom, who is a blogger in the sort of Nordic world, and he's kind of like, he is the encyclopedia of Nordic whiskey. Worked very closely with him, pulling the Nordic casks together. He's an amazing guy, and he's got no kind of ego about him. He's just incredibly knowledgeable, and it's just that kind of like the joy of sort of sharing knowledge, not in a kind of like, look how much I know, I shall demonstrate why I'm the guru and you're the learner. It's just this kind of like joy of sort of sharing knowledge and passion, and I guess that's one of the many things I love about whiskey. Is there's so many great people in it, present company included. Maybe.
Prove it, Cam. Are you one? Which side are you on, Cam? What's your background?
I was actually thinking there, we just keep like descending to bloggers because there's this like, I don't know, underlying like we're annoyed with them or something. It's like I don't know whether you've seen that. There's a QI episode where they're talking about how like online discourse eventually just descends to talking about Hitler. It's like the same with it.
Right.
It's like eventually we're gonna go back to bloggers again. But no, I think that for me, like, well, I'm borderline autist about whiskey as well. Like it's exactly the same. Like I'm really fastidious and I like details. So like when I was growing up, like whiskey was like this thing where, holy shit, like there's so many variables and so many distilleries and they all make different distillates, and it's like I immediately just fell in love, and like I've still not lost that. Like sometimes it is tricky day to day. Working in whiskey, the last thing you want to do after a day's work is drink the stuff. But every now and again, like this, we do get the opportunity to hang out and shoot the shit. And I do absolutely love the category. For me, it's just like the most versatile spirit going. Like I don't know another spirit that single malt anyway. I don't know another spirit that's more exciting for me. So, and that's never changed.
Nice. Well, why don't you tell us a bit about the single malt you brought for us tonight? We've seen the classic sherry from berries. We'll come back to another berries in a sec. But why don't you tell us about Aerolite Lindsay? Yeah.
So I think just going back a bit, just rewind, as you're always saying, Sam. That's a quirk of yours. But just talking about how we relate to independent bottling. At Atom, we're independent too. We don't produce spirit, so therefore any whiskey product that we make is necessarily independent. And in recent years, because of the boom in value of Scotch whiskey, being able to pick up large parcels of casks in order to create products is becoming more and more difficult. I guess one exception to this perhaps is that actually you can still readily pick up parcels of a single malt, but the distiller will request that you don't name it. And this is, I guess, for us a really nice compromise, because it means that we can put out there in the market really great single malt products. Okay, we concede that we can't tell you the distillery it's from, but we can tell stories in other ways and focus on character and flavor. And this one here is Aerolite Lindsay. Now, in a bit of a nod to Burns tonight, we're going to be doing a bit of a whiskey and wordplay, I think. But Aerolite Lindsay in this case is actually just an anagram of 10-year-old Islay. So it's a bit of lateral thinking when it comes to naming a single malt. But this is, can't name the distillery, unfortunately, but it's peated Islay single malt. Depending on which ferry you get into the island, will probably help you determine where it comes from, but I won't say too much. But
it's either Port Ellen or Kalila. Is that what you're telling us?
Or it's either Short Ellen or Short Askeg. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
But anyone watching, if there is anyone out there, they've got any opinions as to what that is, put it in the comments below, as it were, and we'll see. But Aerolite Lindsay.
So why I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and I'm involved with Aerolite Lindsay, but why would someone buy something like that instead of Lefroy 10-year-old that they know where it's from, they know the distiller? What's special? What's the unique, different thing to get into with the independently bottled single malt?
Well, I think there's a couple of value propositions, I would say, to the consumer. It's like, one is that we're all seeing it at the moment with supply chain squeezes and things, but like the price, the shelf price of peated single malt, especially Islay, is really taking a hit because of where it is and supply chain. And so I guess there is a marginal benefit there, is that Aerolite Lindsay is a trade down, I guess, to a certain extent, but not by much. But secondly is that, like, okay, say a Lefroy 10 is an expression of a 10-year-old Lefroy, which has been a vatting from, I say vatting too, by the way. I can't join the blending malt thing. But this could be a vatting of multiple cask types, and so therefore, just because something's Lefroy 10 years old, it may taste completely different to something else that has been matured in a different way. And so that's why that, in these independent bottlings of Aerolite Lindsay or something else from an unnamed distillery, they can be little joyous discoveries, because they might taste completely different to those expressions that you're really used to. So for me, and there may be other propositions that people enjoy, but I think for me that's the main two, really. Nice.
All right. Well, it seems like people are in the wings waiting to get riled up about something, as what usually happens on the internet. Kelly Wellington, thanks for your comment. Yeah, let me share it with you guys. Wait, with all the possible scotches available, you've picked Jameson's, a famous Irish whiskey, as the centerpiece to advertise Bubby Burns, which is the Jewish grandmother version, I guess. Bubby Burns night. That's an affront in itself.
Kelly, they didn't even mention the fact you're not a Scotsman, Sam. I mean, that for me is the most offensive thing.
Well, I'm not wearing underwear, so I'm sort of like kilt attire.
I'm going to send you a hamper of Dundee cake, and then that's it. You're in.
Yeah, just consume the whole Dundee cake in one night while it's still beating, and that's how you become a Scotsman.
That's important to know. Thank you. Well, fortunately, Robbie Burns is celebrated all over the world. There's 160 countries that all have Robert Burns' suppers on the 25th of January. It truly is a global poet and probably one of Scotland's most famous sons. Airlight Lindsay, I'm just jesting, obviously, Kelly. Thanks for that comment. We are also, the Jameson was just part of a joke. The Airlight Lindsay you mentioned is an anagram. That's like a mixed up letter. I love doing that in newspapers and stuff. You had a game you wanted to play with us, and maybe we can have some people watching at home play along too and potentially win some prizes. And Johnny, I'll send you a prize too. You want to play?
Yes, I'm pretty bad at these kind of things, but
Perfect.
I'm willing to give it a bash.
In that case, Cam, you're going to win. Nice. So this is the Airlight Lindsay anagram game. I'm sure we can guess what that means. We'll do the first anagram, and we'll
10-year-old Isla.
Well done.
In the back. Thank you.
Better than you advertised, McMillan. All right, so let's start with this one. It's a Robbie Burns, famous Burns line, only dangles. Only dangles.
I'm trying to think of a famous Robert Burns line that fits that, but
well, pretty much everywhere in the world will utter this phrase on New Year's in particular.
Do we do the cork?
Oh wait, that's
Old Lang Syne.
well, there you go.
Well done. No, that's for Uncorked, the boutique podcast. Cam, settle down. We haven't done that in ages. All right, take it easy, brother. This is last year Malt.
I thought this was a podcast.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry, Giovanna. Right, Old Lang Syne. We get how it works. We all saw that. All right, only dangles, only. That doesn't look like it works. Are we sure? I know.
I was trying to think of a much more like obscure Burns reference, the best laid schemes of mice and men. But yeah, it wasn't that,
nice.
which is Burns, by the way.
That is Burns.
Yeah. What is this one?
This is also Burns related. It's the word. Oh, you can't read. That's right. Deers roared. Deers roared. Also Burns related. Your love is like it.
Red Rose.
Oh, this guy. Somebody went to school in Scotland. Red rose.
I feel if we can just skip the anagrams and give me the clues, I might get them based on that. I mean, I'm really, really bad at it. I'm kind of the opposite of dyslexic. Words do not rearrange for me.
Okay. Well, this is something you may have mentioned, but amuse.
To a mouse. Yes, thank God.
To a mouse.
I got one without the clue. Thank God.
Another Burns. There we go. To a mouse. Lovely. All right. I think now we move away from the Burns theme. We're just warming up, waiting for next week. We're going to Scottish region, Pisside.
Bayside.
Oh, well done, Cameron. Once you see it, you can't.
And why have you not called the whiskey after that?
You've nailed it right. This is an advertisement for a character of Spayside's first 10-year-old.
Amazing.
That's right. Oops, forgot to adjust that. My apologies. All right. Distillery name now. Other Glens.
Glenrothes.
Wow. Johnny, come on. You are good at this, you liar.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that Berry Brothers owned Glenrothes. The brand Glenrothes.
I can't imagine why we included it tonight.
Many a year. Ronnie would have beaten me senseless had I not got that.
I want to beat Ronnie senseless. I haven't seen him in ages. I thought we were going to do this with him tonight, which would have been great, Ronnie. We miss you, and I miss seeing you in person. But I would take even virtual.
Thanks, Sam. That's a real confidence boost for me. I'm glad I was first choice.
Well, you've always been second best, which is pretty good on the podium.
Yeah. No, listen. If there was someone with a better beard about it, like Dave Worthington, then we could have probably skipped the silly anagram games. But don't worry about it, Sam. It's fine. You'll do.
Poor man's Dave Broom. Yeah, Dave. Right. That's right. Oh, cinema sex. Now we're getting somewhere.
The best kind.
This is a distillery, is it?
I can't remember actually.
I think I know this one.
No, it's
Burns was one.
yes, Robbie Burns was one. It's a role. It's a job.
Oh, an exciseman.
Man, you love the clues. You're right. Excisemen. Those are the taxmen gather, making sure that everyone's following the rules. And that's all, geeks. Thank you, Airlight Lindsay, for that anagram game. Great. Well, Johnny, I'm ready to continue into the world of Isla. I've got the old label, so I won't lift the bottle up again. But I think off the top, we showed an image of, I hope the right bottle. Yeah.
Yep.
Really not a fair, the color rendering is not fair. It's nowhere near that light, just for everyone at home. The color rendering in that image isn't quite fair to this Isla whiskey. Also a blended malt. Tell us a little about it then, Johnny.
Yeah, so much like Airlight Lindsay, it's Kalila, but we just can't tell you that. So it's so in fairness, it's not always Kalila. It's occasionally a bit of Peter Bunahab and occasionally a bit of Kalila. There has been other Isla whiskies in there in small amounts, but what we're aiming for this one is a whiskey that tastes like Isla whiskey. So yeah, it's pretty young. This guy, it hasn't quite reached 10 years old, to say the least. But I think when you want a peated whiskey, the kind of longer it's in the cask for, the sort of more it kind of mellows out. So this is pretty fierce. This would put hairs in my chest. Hence I've never actually drank it. Yes, it's very fierce. It's very. I mean, it's there's no way anyone could put their nose in that glass and recognize it as Isla whiskey. I quite like this style of Isla, which is, it's almost kind of like smoke barley eau de vie. It's very pure, very kind of chiseled. There's no kind of like mucking about cask influence. It's not really a lot of maturity about it, but it's just like fierce. I mean, if you can kind of imagine it being some kind of like barley grappa or something.
I think a lot of people think that wood is the only way that maturity is acquired, but of course, air and oxygen and just a bit of time and good marrying, like you've done with this whiskey, gives the sense of maturity as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think wood is definitely a way to make good whiskey if you like a certain character. But I'm a big believer that actually distillate is really the way to make a great whiskey. Yeah, there are some amazing whiskeys that are just long matured in casks. What is Sam doing over there? It's quite disconcerting. He keeps disappearing into the corner.
He's got a TARDIS in the corner of the room where there's all sorts of treats.
I was just going over to just do a quick anagram in the corner.
Maintain the fire, boys.
Just love anagrams. Yeah, so I quite like a sort of distillate forward whiskey, and that's something I share with my boss at Berries. We both generally prefer sort of refill casks. I think it just kind of get a bit more distillery character coming through, which I think if you're kind of like, if you're buying an independent bottling, I think to kind of follow on what Cam was saying earlier, I think sometimes independent bottlers are a little bit like a radio station, and you might tune into a radio station because you know what kind of music you're going to hear. And I think with some independent bottlers, when the people doing the cask selection are relatively small and relatively opinionated groups, such as the Berry Brothers, you generally know what kind of whiskey you're going to get, because if people selecting them, you kind of know what they enjoy. And at Berry Brothers, I think Doug and I both quite like very distillery forward, distillery character, distillate kind of focused whiskies. That said, we have re-racked a lot of sherry casks recently, which are also very, very good. But yeah, my preferred style is that kind of distillery character, which I think this the Isla Classic shows pretty well. I mean, there's not a lot of wood about that, is there?
No, but it's interesting what you just said there, because Doug McIver, longstanding character at Berries and largely associated for a lot of us whiskey drinkers out in the world, associated with Berries. And you said you guys both have a shared sort of preference. And I want, with independent bottlers, and Cam, you can pipe in on this too. With independent bottlers, is there a tendency to create whiskeys that you like rather than what the consumer might like? Because you would think at a bigger company, they're all concerned with providing the consumer with what they want, doing the research and saying, okay, well, we have to use this rum cask because that's the new thing this year. We're going to use that to meet the consumer demand, rather than being driven necessarily by what the individual, because on a smaller scale, you can be steered by what the individuals behind the helm and the decision-making prefer. Are you ever skewed by your preferences?
Constantly. No, I mean, I think it's important when you're selecting casks to sell commercially that you approach things objectively to a level. So, I can nose whiskies of a style that I don't particularly enjoy and objectively say this is a good whiskey. And therefore happy to release it under the Berry Brothers label. That said, I of course have opinions about whiskey. I generally think wine casks are an abomination and just have no place in whiskey. But a lot of people do like wine casks. So we are experimenting with a little bit of that. And for me, it's kind of about damage limitation. I think fortified wines, sweet wines work really, really well for re-racking with a little bit of time, so maybe a year less. Red wines, very risky, hard to get right. But I'm also conscious that some people, I'm conscious of my language here, but some people like red wine whiskies that are in casks for 2-3 years. So, I guess we try to cater for all markets, but I think it's part of your own integrity that you kind of stand up for nail your colours to mast and make clear what you want to bottle. And I think those are the ones we get excited about.
Yeah.
I think generally, I would say independent bottlers are more skewed towards truth than trend, because that's what they do. That's what their proposition is. It's like, we've taken this whiskey and it's an expression of, say, Dal Ewan from 1992, and that's what it was, and that's what it is, and it's a refill hogshead. Go knock yourself out, enjoy it. It's gonna be good. Generally, and a distiller, because it's a part of a larger company and is more market orientated, they'll produce products that will recruit people in and things like that. And I think generally, that's a good way of thinking about it, is like independents are skewed towards truth, and branded products are towards trend.
Exciting. It seems to be for both your answers, though, that there's a bit of self-expression or something, a bit more of a fingerprint of the producer somehow in the independent bottler than maybe in the larger proprietary bottling. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got a bigger color palette to work with as an independent bottler as well. If you're a marketeer for one distillery, you're going to have to do things to create different SKUs, such as add orange, for instance. I'm never getting a job at Jameson now. Not that I thought I was due for one before, to be honest. With independent bottler, I guess we have a huge bulk holding. We own a lot of casks, thousands of casks. It's a wonderful position to be in. And it just gives us a bit more flexibility. If we think something's good but could be better in 5 years, then we'll hold on to it. And sometimes we'll have parcels of 20 casks. So, we can release a couple this year, hold on to a few and release them. And, I was looking at some casks the other day, booked into bottle in 2032. It's nice to have that kind of flexibility to actually look at, well, this is good, but 10 years time it's gonna be amazing. So I'm kind of hopeful that I'm laying down some whiskies that people will be bottling when I'm retiring as 50-year-old or whatever. So yeah, it's a good position to be in.
That's very cool. And again, back to that sort of humility point we made earlier, that demands that to be making plans that you'll never see necessarily come to fruition is pretty cool. And there are a few categories or drinks that demand that of us as producers. So that's exciting. Thanks, man. Johnny, I know that Master of Malt and you at Berry Brothers, and you in particular, though, selected a few casks to be exclusively available for Burns Night this year. They're going live next week on the 24th. Can you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, it's the two really really nice whiskies. So when was it? Guy came up. So Guy, who was previously a buyer at Master Malt, came up to Edinburgh, and we sat down in the corner of a bar on a very rainy day. Sat down at that cat bar in Edinburgh and tasted a few cask samples. And Master Malt are good friends of ours, and we we've worked with you for a long time, so we had some nice casks. There's the Tamdhu 95 and a few things. Like when a sherry butt of Tamdhu from 1995 didn't make the cut. The whiskies selected were really, really good. So there's two of them. First, but not least, is an Orkney, similar to other islands where we can't tell you where it's from. Let's say it's not Scapa, nor is it Stromness. And it's from 1999. So what's that going to be like? 22-year-old Highland Park. Pretty incredible whiskey. And those casks as well. Highland Park is peated. It's peated very, very lightly. But you sometimes find with single casks, they've just got little kind of, you notice little kind of pops a parcel of stock which got a little bit higher peating level, and I think these are some of those casks. They're not like uber peaty, but they're just glorious. And Highland Park for me is one of those distillates when it reaches kind of like mid-20s is just glorious whiskey. It's kind of uber complex, little bit of peat, little bit of that kind of like heather honey thing coming in from the kind of classic Highland Park flavors. It's absolutely glorious. It's wonderful. However, the other one that Guy picked is a 1998 Ben Nevis, which is just like the dark of the nerds, and for very good reason. Ben Nevis is one of those distilleries that has made that kind of like old style character. And I talk about old style whiskey referring to like a bigger mouthfeel, kind of oily, viscous, like kind of almost like paraffin, and this kind of flavor of tropicality, kind of like tropical fruit, grapefruit, stone fruit, almost like kind of New Zealand hops. And Ben Nevis does this incredible thing, which Lochside 82 does, if you're lucky enough to have some of that. Some Tomatin does. 97 Tomatin does. And actually, weirdly, Bottlings does as well, 12-year-old Inch Murray, where, on this good, it's slightly fruity, it's chewy, it's kind of fat, it's slightly grimy. And the palate, just before you finish, just before you swallow, just like 2 seconds into it, just goes, and you get a tropical fruit, and it's just incredible. So yeah, 96, 97, 90 Nevis are just wonderful. So that's the other cask that Guy picked out, and rightly so, because it's just so they're two awesome casks. I mean, exactly stuff like well-matured refill casks, great distillate. Ben Nevis, Highland Park are some of the Grand Cru Scotch whiskey, no doubt about it. Arran, Talisker, Springbank, Speyburn, one or two others, Glengarry, amazing whiskies, and they are just,
Well, it might be the first time that some people have heard of something like Ben Nevis. Highland Park, you're right, maybe people have heard of, but Ben Nevis, if you haven't heard of it, like you say, it's the darling of the nerds right now. It is a Highland whiskey that is absolutely stunning, and surprisingly so. And I agree. I think a real underrated distillery is Loch Lomond generally. I love Inchfad Spirit. I love Inchmurrin Spirit. And I love their grain, their malt grain as well. I think it's great. It's very affordable, and it's a nice drink.
When it launched in, I don't know when that was, like 8 years ago, with the packaging, I tried it, and I have to say, I guess like a lot of people, Loch Lomond is not the sexiest of names. Try the distillate. It's incredible. I'm in the distillery as well. Were you at that Jamboree, Sam, or went around to Loch Lomond?
No, I didn't come that year, unfortunately.
No, it was amazing. It's like, if you want to talk about a craft distillery, and okay, it's ugly, it's very, very big, but that is a craft distillery. It's doing things that no one else does. It's playing about with wine yeast. It's playing about with, malt and column, all these guns. And yeah, I think that 12-year-old Inchmurrin is really, really fruity. It's great whiskey.
Awesome. And Cam, character. We'll wrap up in a sec, guys. But Character of Isle, we talked about two very old whiskeys there that are going to be independently bottled, only available at Master Malt, selected by Guy and Johnny. They're going live next on the 24th. So keep your eye open for those. But do you have older character of Islas too, or just the 10-year-old Aerolite?
We do. We have a couple of whiskeys to choose from there. So we have the Fiona MacLeod, which is a 33-year-old expression. And the other, it might have to help me, Sam. What's the other one?
It flops on some people spot them on the coast.
Oh, Grey Seal. Yeah. Okay. They're all about wordplay, right? So the Grey Seal 25-year-old as well is another one that's available. But they're sort of batch products, so they're not continuous. So they're worth whipping up before they end, you know.
I guess, yeah, supply, like we were saying earlier, supply of old Isla or old whiskey generally is just probably quite thin. Cool. All right. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. If you've tuned in and suffered our hospitality tonight, thanks a lot for tuning in and watching with us. I'm just going to check quickly to see if there's anything. Penny in the slot says, I see distilleries as musicians and independent bottlers as DJs. Both make great music, just in different ways. I love that. That's a great metaphor.
Analogy. Yeah.
It makes me sound much cooler than I am as well. I'm basically a whiskey DJ.
Well, I'm happy to be near the band, guys. Let me backstage. This has been awesome. Thanks a lot for spending time with us tonight. We're going to wrap it. I can go pick up my daughter. You can get back to your life. Enjoy Burns Night next week. You guys have plans?
It is my niece's second birthday, so we're having a second birthday for Flora. That'll be wonderful.
Flora, lovely. Okay, and Cam?
Yeah, I'll be coming back up from London and doing it with friends. I think I'm on the Stranahan, I think. So never made it before.
It's just a bunch of stuff thrown in a cup, isn't it?
It's like all famous Scottish recipes. There's one thing in common with them, like you don't need teeth to eat them, and that's Stranahan to just shovel it in. So yeah, got that to look forward to.
You're going to be in London. We'll talk about that offline, but okay. I've loved it, guys. Good to see you. I hope to see you in person soon. Thanks for being here, and for all of you tuning in, thanks a lot. This has been our sort of preview for Burns Night. Get us warmed up, get some tipples. We've had. I know it's the wrong bottle, but can one of you pull it up, please? Can one of you grab it? Yes, we've had the classics from Barry's, very affordably priced, and exactly as Johnny says, they're to tick that box when you crave a sherry, spicy style of dram, but don't want to reach for anything too expensive. It's a great everyday sherry bomb and a great everyday Isla from Barry's Classic, and then Aerolite Lindsay, non-chill filtered, higher strength, and a single malt. And also ticks that box as well. As Dave Broom said about it, glasses, friends, throw the cork away. It's that kind of whiskey. So perfect for a Burns Night. Guys, thanks a lot for your time tonight. I will do a little outro, and I'll speak to you after we stop streaming. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Yes.
Oh, what assholes. I don't know. I don't even know who invited. I know. I didn't invite them. Who did you tell them to come? I didn't tell them to come. Are we still? We're still going?